this meeting of the Board of Education to order. The board would like to welcome the audience and thank you for attending. Viewers may watch Board of Education meetings and board committee meetings live at tcaps.net/board. Recorded meetings may be viewed on demand at the same address. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, with the review approval portion of the agenda, is there any motion to approve?
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
I second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to public comment. Any public comment?
We do. Bill Wiesner.
Okay, and before Bill starts, I'll give you a second, Bill, just to set your clock because the board has set aside this time for public comment. Individuals addressing the board should have one opportunity to speak and shall be limited to 3 minutes. Individuals should not make personal attacks unrelated to actions affecting the school system, and we strongly encourage common courtesy, constructive feedback with detailed rules and procedures, including a complaint process in Board Policy 2504.
Bill Wiesner, privacy. This handout I handed out before was Proclamation for Morality. It goes into the issue on LGBTQ. It shows a lot on here. This was written by people above me, and they go into the history of the movement, Alfred Kinsey, all that, the health risks, and so keep this in mind. This is important. The kids in the school, all the children, should have access to this information like this. The handout, I was going to give it to you, but I'll just go to Tattle if you want to read this, and it's from Michelle Howard, the librarian there, okay, the head librarian. And if you look in March's newsletter, way at the bottom, it goes and it says, she talks about 2 topics. The first one is the low reading scores across Michigan, so she's encouraging reading books. And then she says, and the second reason that we're celebrating reading is basically, she got 3 paragraphs saying of the people still continually wanting to ban books and prevent these kids from getting the information. And it's over and over in there. It's like, we don't ban books, but just like TCAPS, TC West High School, 500 books promoting homosexual behavior. That's what it is. It's positive towards LGBT, not one book on the other side. So I haven't heard anybody address that yet. I don't know if the books have changed. It'd be good to, this is publicly known. It's on my website, tcfamily.org. I just looked them up. Anybody can look up those books. What are we doing on the other side? Michelle says we can't keep information away because the kids have a right to it. And if you don't want to read it, just don't look. Ask a librarian to show you where the books are that interest you. Well, the books that interest me are the ones that aren't being shown there on LGBT and the history of it and the false foundation and the risks and the transgender issue, where if you just leave the kids alone, 85 to 95% of them will come out of that feeling. But they're encouraged in it. A couple other things, when you select a board member, hopefully we'll get somebody like that that's open into looking at that, and not only looking at it, but making it right. If there's 500 books promoting homosexuality, there should be 500 showing the compassionate view on the other side. So please select someone that's got that viewpoint, open mind to show both sides, and our side is not being shown. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other public
That is the end of public comments.
Check that. So that is the end of the public comment requests. Do we have a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented?
I move that the Board of Education approve the consent calendar as presented and without discussion. Second.
Second, all right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. moving on to discussion. Firstly, thanks everyone for making it today. I know this is a difficult time, and to have 100% participation is fantastic. There is no right or wrong way to do this, and the board didn't really prescribe a way to do it at the previous meeting. So I do have some notes. There was a reach out to MASB who did have a process for the final candidates, and it is a little applicable to here, but really the general gist was identifying what you're looking for in a board member, measuring that person against that, and if you can agree that, then great, and regardless, you can have a voting method. So I didn't know how the board wanted, and I'm open to take any dialogue, and I can kick it off. I mean, I know I think we will probably have differences, but what we're looking for in board members, I'm happy to go through that if we want to start that way and see if we line up on a shared goal. And if so, then we can then measure the candidates against that. So, does anyone want? I'm happy to go first, or if anyone wants to go first.
Why don't you go first?
I said I feel like I mean for me there's a couple of things. Obviously number one is I want someone who's going to add to the board, who's going to work with all board members to debate and be open-minded, to come without any preconceived notions of change or what, just be really open. Financial background, I think, I know that we've all got plenty of financial experiences, but with Andrew leaving and Matt previously before that, I think we've lost a lot of financial background, which is kind of a critical board function. So for me, financial background is right up there. And then I do want to be wary of the balance of the board. It's definitely the lower of the third, but making sure that we have all views and kind of different views. It doesn't matter what they are. I'd like to have different views. So having people who are different to our existing board members is always beneficial. So that's my criteria.
I'm happy to go next. Yeah, so we had some overlap, but some differences. My 4 priorities when I was looking through all of the letters of interest, the resumes, and the responses to the Q&A was 1, a connection to elementary school. A parent or a grandparent, or even perhaps a relative of a teacher, but particularly a parent or grandparent of elementary school students. None of us remaining has an elementary school age child in this system, and I do think that perspective is really helpful, and that is one thing we lost in Andrew Raymond. Secondly, the financial background, which you mentioned, particularly K through 12 budgets, that's extremely helpful. Anybody who has background in Michigan schools, budgeting, that's helpful. But, there are some applicants who have significant business backgrounds or degrees in finance, economics, etc. Third is former board experience. Doesn't have to be TCAPS Board of Education. It could be a commission, it could be an advisory board, but that was a third area that was relevant to me because of the governance responsibility that we had, the consensus building, the problem solving, the constructive, leadership that we need. And fourth, this was probably really hard to get out of the paperwork, so I'd be looking more for the interviews on this part, but I would say independence and moral courage to challenge the status quo and advocate for continuous improvement for students' success. So working collaboratively, but also, fighting for our kids. That's a key thing for me.
Okay.
And I really think you guys kind of covered the items that were my priorities as well. I was thoroughly impressed with all of the interest in this position, and feel very fortunate that we had so many super qualified people come out to apply for the position. But again, a lot of my goals are the same. Pick a candidate that it has the ability to work with all the board members. Obviously, financial background is key. Losing Andrew, and this is my first time serving on the finance committee, so So to have somebody that has that experience, I think is very important. And the connection to the elementary school, that was actually not one of my priorities, but through even reading, it was interesting, through reading a lot of the candidates, there's a lot of Eastern Elementary School connections, which I thought was very interesting, but that was definitely something that I thought, you and I both have high school kids, or actually all three of us have high school kids. Beth, doesn't have any kids, but brings, and Ty too has kids. Scott
great.
too, I mean.
5 of us have
Yeah.
high
Gonna
school
cover
kids.
the,
Yeah.
cover the
Yeah,
elementary
yeah.
in a few years again.
Yeah, so, Scott will be bringing up the.
True.
Not even junior kindergarten.
So I always did appreciate Andrew's perspective on that elementary viewpoint. So those were all part of my priorities as well, so.
Okay.
And I do feel that way. I echo what all of you said. I feel like integrity and community connection is really important. There's a number of really beautiful, wonderful candidates here, and many of whom have financial experience. It's really important to me that people be able to navigate some of the important issues that come up with integrity, and I'm open to that too. Like, I love having different viewpoints. I wouldn't necessarily, for example, exclude somebody for being something different than me, and I don't think we should. I think it should be something varied, and I also feel that I like the idea of having a parent here, because we, like you said, we don't have many of those left. We're all starting to age out of that. The other part is I like seeing the TCAPS involvement with some of these candidates. I think there's been a lot of those, and I think that's fantastic. So.
Okay. You're welcome to, you don't have to.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm jumping the gun, but I think is it okay for us to not agree on
Absolutely.
what we're looking for?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so, and will we each have an individual vote?
Yeah, so I mean, so again, my process was if we come down to the, if we agree generally what it is, I think that's what I would use to measure the candidates against. You could, at the end of it, however we decide, we're gonna probably end up with a vote. I can tell you my proposal, which is based off of MASB's thing, is to have people have multiple votes, either top 2, top 3, and a point, 3 points for the first, 2 points for second, 1 point for third, or 2 points for first, 1 point for second.
Less chances of ties.
Exactly, and then it's, I think personally, I'm guessing that we're probably gonna come down to just the top 2. And everyone can write down, tally the vote, have someone else tally the vote to double check my math, and then whatever that is, and then we take the top X number, and I would probably suggest 3. 2, 3, or 4 would be the max, I would say. 2 would be the minimum, and then I would suggest 3, but again, open to suggestions. So did you want to add anything to the comments of what, you can add stuff, it's fine.
Well, I'll just say my piece, we have 7, now 8 who have submitted the Q&A. And I'm just one person, but I would like to hear from all 8 of them in a statement on the 10th. That may not be agreed, but I think they should all have the opportunity to speak. Their statement, their resume, the Q&A, to me would be enough to make a decision, so I don't think there should be an interview of back and forth as well, but that's just me, and I know 8 times 3 minutes is 24 minutes of statements, and I get that we're gonna have a long meeting, but
They'll actually get up to 5 minutes each, so it'll be 40.
and the 5 minutes comes from,
Their statements, their opening statements are
That's
up to
how we
5 minutes
originally
each.
laid out, that was one of the things that the board did lay out originally.
during the exec committee.
No, I think we actually did
Before
that in the
that.
board meeting, didn't we?
Yeah, or in the
Is
announcement.
in the announcement, it was kind of like discussed in the board, but not,
I see, so they'll have 5-minute statements.
And right, and then we have Q&A.
that was partially based off of previous, what we had done, but.
And the Q&A, the interviewing, it was also in what was communicated to the candidates after this.
Yeah, I mean, we said that the board could ask questions, but we didn't say that the board would ask specific questions obviously we could agree
Clarifying
not to, it was more of a
Well, I guess-
clarifying
Clarifying,
question. It wasn't meant to be new questions, it was
I'm
more
open
like,
to-
I don't understand.
I'm open
That's why I'm
to
concerned.
more than less than, I'd prefer all 7, or at least the folks that submitted their Q&As on time. Again, I'm not clearly sure what we said was on time, the deadline, but That's my opinion.
And I think my only logic, and I don't necessarily disagree, originally we talked about this as a board and I was like, we weren't sure what the number was and my number in the head was around 8. Probably would have, if we had had a few people who dropped out, hadn't applied in the first place, we probably wouldn't have even had this meeting, we'd just done it. So that is an option. I just also, since we are here, if we are gonna narrow it down, we can save their time as well as ours. I'm less worried about our time than I am bringing someone in and putting them through the public spectacle of that if they're not likely to get selected. And I don't wanna also bias anything, so I'm okay with whatever the board decides again.
I'm okay hearing from all the candidates. I mean, like I said, I was very impressed with all of them and honestly, really tough decision, to be honest. I mean, I really felt like each one of them could add something different to the board. So sure, if the rest of you, what do you guys think?
I would love a little more time to review it, cause I mean, we did just get the last one in the last hour. I would love a little more time to flesh it out a little more and you know, be able to ask pointed questions when the time comes.
And just so obviously we had a problem in the fact that we were planning to have a meeting later today, but then we couldn't because of all the other TCAPS commitments. So
Right.
hence why we originally had a deadline that was unrealistic for our expectations. So that's, again, apologies, we didn't
And I
have
just
that.
wanna make sure that the last candidate that there wasn't a mix-up or a
We
misunderstanding.
emailed them and
Okay.
asked them Friday that
Okay.
if they could have them in preferably by 3:00 on Sunday.
Yesterday, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
That was the communication.
I think we had one that was sick, couldn't, that was communicated, and then they have since turned it in, but no.
okay.
I think there's still a couple, 2 missing. Again, I'm okay with, this is a board process, so that would make this meeting very easy. So it's up to everyone else or so.
Well, then I guess the question would be, can everybody make the March 10th meeting of the candidates?
Correct, that
Not
would
just the
also be
board, right?
we would assume, now obviously if they can't, then they can't, and whether we progress or not, I guess is
Yeah,
irrelevant,
yeah,
but so I don't know if, I'm sure there'll be 1 or 2 who cannot make it.
So just to clarify, are we trying to debate having all candidates present here today?
No, not today, because we only had, we do have a
Okay.
couple in the audience, but
Okay.
it would be all 8 would progress to the March 10th meeting, is what Ty was suggesting. He's like, we wouldn't limit it at all. to that.
Okay,
8 or 9, depending on whether the 9th person turns in their paper, their questions.
Yeah, I would suggest by 4 would be the.
And
I think we have a
technically
net
not, they don't
8
even
now.
have to turn them in theoretically.
Yeah.
They've submitted the
Yeah,
application.
we asked them
That's
to,
correct.
and this came because as NMC did a similar process and I applied for it and we all got a chance to speak and we all did the Q&A and we sent a resume and they voted right then and there. And I thought it was a nice process, so that's the only reason. And I don't think 7 or 8 is that big of a number. And I do respect them for it takes a lot of courage to throw your hat in the ring and come do it. And I would love to personally to hear them speak. I think being able to speak clearly and concisely is an important skill. And I think that's we owe them.
Yeah, going into exec, I was hoping it was gonna be 7 under 7-ish or less, and then we wouldn't have scheduled this meeting. And then obviously it was more, and then a couple dropped out. Originally 11 and down. So it was going up too, so I was like, alright, well, that's kind of above the number that we could do in one. If the board wants to do that, then that's how we can do it. If we want to narrow it down to at all, we can today. It's totally up to you.
I see merit in both, I really do. I think having fewer people allows you to focus more on your Q&A. Whereas when you're trying to get through 9 people and a lot of them will be saying similar things because you're all just getting to know each other. And so I think it may be more difficult to sort through a larger number. But again, I'm new at this, so.
Yeah, and I think you would, if at that point, you would really limit Q and A, like Ty said, like at that point, it's it's a 5 minute, you've got the questions that have been answered.
Yeah.
Obviously, any candidate can talk to or call or email any board member or anything that they want to do. I'm not saying that it has to be done, but like that, there's a lot of information already on the table at that point, so then you just make the statement and go and vote and do the voting method, which I would like to at least make sure that we have that down before the meeting, cause it's easier to do it before the meeting than on the day of. And then go from there. Anyway, so if you wanna, I guess we just need a consensus of the board.
I know.
Sorry, just so to be clear, are there any guidelines for how long the Q&A per candidate would last? Does it have to be even Steven for all of the candidates? Because just to calculate the time, I know we have, having been an exec, we have a pretty long agenda Monday as it is.
That's why I would suggest that if you do it that way, and this is my suggestion, not, it's everyone's decision. If you do that way, I would just say, there's a 5-minute statement, no questions, vote.
Yeah, and I would like the opportunity to ask the candidates questions.
So if you're going to go that way, I would, to Beth's point, then I would limit it down a little, at least, so you have more time with each candidate. Because if you're not, you're talking a 5-minute statement, at least, 5-minute questions, so 10. So talk over almost an hour and a half at that point, plus
Right.
debate, plus voting, so you're talking 2 hours, hour and a half, maybe
See
2.
why I moved that up in the agenda?
Yeah, so it is.
While we're all still fresh
Yeah.
at the beginning of that meeting? Yeah.
Yeah, and I would assume, and this may be me assuming, but that, a lot of these letters of interest are gonna be very similar to what somebody says in an opening statement. They're clearly stating why, they wanna be a part of the board. Some may elaborate a little bit more or less, but I think that, a lot of those letters gave us a good insight. So, I guess, yeah,
We can go right into questions
yeah.
instead of.
I mean, maybe we could,
We take their statement as prepared and then just go right into questions.
It's up to everyone. I said, I'm generally okay with whatever the board decides, but this is the only option I have to ask the board what they want, and I would love as much specifics as possible. Because obviously, as we've seen, is the one thing I've learned. To start this process is we could have hammered out, we could have probably spent 45 minutes hammering out a much more detailed process and just following it. But again, you didn't know how many people were gonna apply, it was.
Yeah.
And
I
then
mean,
did
we
have a
could lay
few-
out something like, if you want to have an opening statement, no more than 2 minutes, and then 3 minutes for question and answers. And that way we sort of know going into it, like 5 minutes per candidate, I think would feel better than kind of an open-ended, you type of thing.
That's what you could just limit the time total per candidate, and then add some variation to.
Right.
Also, just to encourage everybody to do your homework well ahead of time.
But yeah, it said reading.
Yeah, make sure that maybe that will help cut down for some people, who they're gonna ask questions of, et cetera.
Yeah, and that is my thing is, I think going through, I did think the candidate pool was exceptionally strong. I was really pleased with the candidates and the responses that we received. So there's no, but even then with the layout of with the connection to schools, the working with each other, the financial background, independence, that everyone kind of shared, I do feel like it limits it. And so that was, to me, I have narrowed down my candidates in my head.
Another question, is there any way we can post, I don't know, their resumes or their questions, for the public?
It's public record.
I know it's been done in the past.
Yeah, I know it's been done in the past too, and I think, just for some community feedback of, I think would be helpful on some of the, some of the candidates. I mean, I've reached out to some people that I know have connections and, so that was really helpful for me personally on some of them. But again, I didn't get feedback on, I don't know connections on all of them. So I think that might be something, and maybe we ask them first, like, hey, this is what we're gonna do.
It is public record anyway
yeah.
already.
We would normally redact personal information, phone number, email
Kids' names.
address,
Yeah.
those things, but
We redact like kids' names too, right?
same,
Student names.
correct, same.
But
Also, would it be possible to get just like from Tammy, maybe just a list of everybody, because we have them all in the folders right now.
there is a sheet,
Right.
there is a
Yeah.
shared sheet.
Yeah, this.
Yeah.
this
No,
one
there's a
here.
shared sheet too. There's a
Oh.
shared sheet with when the questions were submitted and
Okay,
everything.
great.
I think
Thank you.
if not,
I can share that with
Yeah.
everyone.
yeah, I don't know if that was just your tracking. I don't know if I just found it when I was searching, so.
Thank you.
Well, I guess you could also do a very academic thing, which is you could say, well, let's have 25 points that we can distribute. 25 points is the top per candidate. And maybe we'll give 5 points if we think they have a strong financial background. And we'll give them, if it's articulate, I kind of understand clearly what their background is, we'll give them another up to 5 points, and you begin to narrow it, trying to put a point system to it. I've seen that used frequently when you have applicants to grad programs. And
I
that might
have
be,
too, but
and so
I feel
you're
like-
not just personally saying, I really like that person, I know that person, it's not like picking someone for a sorority so much as someone that you're thinking about a weighted way to actually approach it, given that all people have merit.
I
So
know
let's
that-
come
yeah.
to the voting part after we figure out how we're doing it, I guess, first. So, I mean, I am feeling that is where my preference would be to narrow it down, but
today.
But I am also really fine with progressing
I
everything.
found it, I'm sorry. I did find it, yeah.
So really, if that's where we wanna go, then we can just agree that.
Josie, where are you sitting? I don't even, I'm,
I would say out of the 8 candidates, that we have the net 8.
I know where 2 you said, but I'm not sure.
I agree with other statements that we had a really strong candidate pool. There's no question. But like I said, I laid out my priorities, and so there were 6 who checked at least 2 of those boxes, and the only 2 who did not. So if I had to, eliminate anybody tonight just to have reduced burden next Monday, for the process, there would only be 2 that I would probably advocate not moving forward. Again, their time may come, but right now, for where we are and what we need, that would be my personal preference. But if the majority here would like to hear from all 8, have the opportunity to ask questions of all 8, I am open to that as well. Because you never know what you're missing by not having an interview, so to speak.
True. But on the other hand, you can get to the point that you'd like half of that person.
Right, I mean, it's efficient to move forward with fewer, but if there's consensus, but I'm comfortable being in the minority on that.
I agree with everything. I know we need to make a decision, so I guess my thoughts would be, that maybe we do try to narrow it down, versus kind of moving all 8 forward. I would agree it's more efficient. Yeah.
I mean, I'm also, you could hit a compromise and we could take more people forward. So maybe we narrow it down, but not, to 3, to 5. Or we each get 3 votes and we do a first, second, third, and we progress the top 5 if there are 5 people who get votes, because maybe we're voting for this, I don't think we will. We'll progress up to the top 5. That's one way, again. So it sounds like we've got 2 for sure looking to would progress everyone. 2 I'm not sure, Josie, which one you were falling on, but I think two that would limit it down to a number.
Yep.
Beth, I'm not sure where you are, or Josie, I think you're on that camp, but I'm not totally sure if that's the case, or if you wanted to
I
progress all
could
the way.
do it easily to three of them. I think, you were talking six.
Yeah, there are a couple of people I feel very strongly about, a couple I have questions about, and a couple that I just thought didn't have enough of the background criteria that I'm looking for. So, do you
Yeah,
wanna?
and there's a couple of people in there that I think would be, I respect and would be, I think, good board members, but they may not tick the boxes either, so
Right.
I
Right.
also don't wanna put board members into something, like making it seem like they didn't like a candidate, cause that's not maybe true.
It's definitely not personal.
No,
It
it's not
never
personal.
is. And this is difficult.
This is difficult.
And you know, there are pros and cons to running for office and having 6 months to run a campaign or
Yeah.
something by appointment.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I guess let's vote if the only way to do this is a vote of the board, so if you want, we can narrow, I guess there's three options, but really two fundamental. Do we progress everyone or do we narrow the pool today? If we do narrow the pool today, to how many? But we can start probably by saying just a sheer, we don't have to do a motion at this point, we can just show of hands of whether we want to narrow it down. Or I guess we can just choose whichever one, progress, if we wanna show hands to progress everyone.
Which are we voting on right now?
We're showing hands to, if you want to progress the entire pool.
Just because I want more time to.
And that's fair, like,
Yeah, that's
there's no, I'm actually not, I said I wouldn't be upset whatever everyone decides, but. So it sounds like we would narrow the field down, is it also acceptable to the people, and I know we're all kind of on there, if we set that number higher, does everyone like, and again, this is just me, but if we want to turn in our top three candidates, some, doesn't even have to be ranked, we can just do the top three and the top three vote getters, or the top 5 vote getters, we can progress, and if there is 5, I assume there would be. That's one way to do it, that's a halving the pool.
Let's do it.
Alright, so with that, if you just wanna turn the names, I would not make any comments, because remember, they are public record as well. So,
Just tell you the name?
you can tell if you want, or you can write it down and I can tell.
Do you want paper? I have paper if any.
Do you wanna do, which way, or do you just wanna tell? It's hard to,
I'm gonna write it down, Scott.
write them down is way easier,
Okay, I'm
because
gonna write it
otherwise I
down.
don't know how to do the count. And keep track of how many people.
I'll just remind you, these are foilable.
That's why I said is they are public record. You don't have to add your
Josie,
name.
do you
Yeah.
have paper?
Sure, I'll take one, thank you.
So we'll collect them
Please.
and keep them in
Yep.
the board packet, so you know.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I'll take it,
Thank you.
why not? That way I don't scrap piece of paper.
If you just wanna put them all on this, then they're all
Sure.
even,
Yep.
and it's easier. for me
Okay.
to do my.
Order of preference or
No,
And what
we
are
just do,
three?
so I'm saying do the 3, doesn't matter about preference, I'm just gonna tally the total number.
These are the ones that were,
Now, these are the
No.
ones that you would want.
Move on.
oh, okay,
Do you need a new piece of paper?
no.
And don't, I mean, if you need a few minutes, this is fine, like.
Are we including the person that we haven't heard the questions
Up to you,
Mhm.
that's
They are a candidate,
they are candidate.
regardless if
still
they
quite
turn
a-
them in or not.
Yeah, there's still quite a bit of information to go on with their letter of intent and resume, right?
Yeah.
Is that the person who's sick? Is that the person who's sick?
And you want up to 3?
Yep,
Up to.
up to 3, that's good. I will have it, can I get another piece of paper just to tally? I wanna keep and then maybe I'll have you tally, or whoever, someone else should tally as well, just to verify. Really do take your time, it's fine, like,
And
it's not like I feel like we're in the test like in high school. It's
No,
like-
no, no, and I had kind of spent some time earlier doing
Careful.
just this,
We're telling,
so.
Oh, yeah.
post it. Your time.
Thought we had great candidates.
Scott, do you wanna pass those on for her to double check?
Yeah. And we got one more.
Here, why don't you hold this one, have her pass it to you, and then pass it to us, that way we're not.
Yep.
We gotta checks and balances message here.
It's always an awkward
Oh, yeah.
public meeting when you have to debate certain things that,
True.
I mean, even when we hired superintendent, you know, you have to debate it in public and.
It's always like, it's exciting when you see so many good candidates who
It's
want to be
true.
part of it, and at the same time, it's like you wish that you just have one.
Yeah.
Make it
It's
easy
very
and.
A
true.
really interesting thing is in other states, all that, it can be anonymous,
Oh,
all closed session,
really?
superintendents as well.
Hmm.
I mean, there's some, I get both sides.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the part I think a lot of times for superintendents is, especially if you're coming from another district,
Yeah.
you know, like, you know, that it can cause conflict, that, why do you wanna leave us?
You see it, you see that one?
Right.
Right.
Big
You
time.
know,
Same thing with pastors.
exactly, right, sure,
Yeah.
yeah, so if you don't get it, you're going back, you know, going, hey,
Yeah.
you still love me.
That's right, shall I meet you at the river?
Right,
And what purpose?
yeah. Scott first.
Fortunately, you're not looking for 2 or 3 candidates.
Yes. That happens in some school districts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the process, you know, like when a board either doesn't have any candidates
No, thank you.
or can't agree, it goes to the ISD board,
Oh,
and they're the ones that make that decision.
Didn't Elk Rapids have,
They did, they did.
you step down or?
Yeah, and they didn't have any candidates, and so it kicked the ISD board to appoint somebody and find somebody if they're not able to. or if it's a tie or whatever, it goes to the ISD board.
That one? Aye.
You good?
And then come verify.
Yep.
Just clarify that our numbers match.
Did you get a thank you note? Everyone's different.
Yeah. These are from Montessori.
Yeah.
Yeah, their cards. I got this one from someone that you'd be interested to see who's got one.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
The little baby.
Okay.
That's so
Very
sweet.
nice.
Yeah.
Alright,
Okay, they do match, so now I've got to say names. I'll choose the first, I'm gonna go with first names, although I wrote them down as, so the top vote getters were, Scott Hardy, Peter Mooney, Jessica Forster, and Becky Lent each had, and then we also had a tie for the fifth spot, with Jerry and Eamon and Dee were the three.
Can you state their last names? It's
I try to
DeGrazia.
do my best to so apologies if I DeGrazia. Actually that's and then
Eamon Smith.
Eamon Smith. And then Dee Zudemeister. Zuda.
Zwierdsma. Zwierdsma.
Thank you.
Zwierdsma.
That was the one I was
Okay. Okay.
Zwierdsma.
Okay.
Okay, so those are the, so we have 4 candidates with more than 1 vote. So obviously we've progressed those, the only question is if we have 3 who have received 1 vote. So I said 5, do you want to send 4, or do you want to tie break the 3? How do you wanna do it?
I say we do the 4. I agree.
Okay, that's what I would also propose.
And so again, so the 4, Jessica Forster.
Jessica Forster, Peter Mooney, Becky Lent, and Scott Hardy.
And each of them received at least
At least two votes.
Okay. And the others received only 1?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is, I mean, people are gonna ask, so I'll say what the vote count was. Scott Hardy received 5, Peter Mooney received 4,
Okay.
Jessica Forster received 4, Becky Lent received 2. So,
Can you repeat that one more time?
yep, Scott Hardy had 5,
Mm-hmm.
Peter Mooney had 4, Jessica Forster had 4, Becky Lent had 2.
Everybody else had 1?
Everyone else had 1.
Or fewer,
Yes.
perhaps. Okay. All right.
So if that is what we want to do, is that if there's any other questions, we can certainly talk about it, or we can take a motion with the 4.
I will move to move forward to our March 10th board meeting. Jessica Forster, Scott Hardy, Becky Len, and Peter Mooney for consideration of the open board seat.
A second.
Alright. Tammy, please conduct a roll call vote.
Moonmore,
Yes.
Ballinger,
Yes.
Bird,
Yes.
Pack,
Yeah.
Schmidt,
yes.
Newman Vale.
Yes, motion carries. So thank you, everyone. This is definitely not a fun process.
Can we talk process quickly,
Yeah.
so we're
Yes,
clear?
I do wanna cover that,
Sounds
yeah.
good.
I was gonna go into the voting, so to avoid changing any rules on anyone at the
Right.
next meeting,
Right.
I do wanna have, now we're down to 4, we know what we're dealing with. I do wanna set the parameters so everyone knows ahead of time, so it's clear. So previously, we've arrived at the meeting and figured it out. Obviously, I think it's best for us to just take the time and say, how do we want this to happen? So we've now down to 4 candidates. Do you wanna, we originally said in our packet there'd be a 5-minute followed by questions. Do you wanna follow that process? What limits do you wanna put on questions? Whether it be time, number from a board member.
First, I would just say, since we posted 5 minutes, and we only have 4 candidates, I am okay
That's
with
what I would do.
giving them 5 minutes each.
So would that be a couple minutes of statement and then?
Their
5 minutes of
personal
questions?
statement could be up to 5 minutes, which is long, since we're all
Right.
used to 3 minutes of public comments, but, you know, they have that discretion, they can make it shorter, but I'm okay with them taking up to 5 if they so
Right.
choose.
And if they choose shorter, then do we open it up for questions?
I think that's a separate part, either you
Okay.
can say that it's a period of time, 5 minutes or greater, and that's it, however it breaks down, or you can just say there's an opening statement up to 5 minutes, and then either, board members can ask a maximum of 1 question per
Yeah.
would-be
Candidate.
candidate.
Mhm.
I don't think we've got people who are looking to trip people up or do anything, dramatic for them, so like, I think whatever they up to, a lot of times you may not want to ask a question. I think it should be clarifying, but it's
So
up
not
to
a
you.
time limit so much as just 1 question each.
So 6 questions per candidate?
Up
to.
to, I would withhold personally, unless there's something specific that you want to hear, but
You have that right.
again,
Yeah.
totally, this is a board process, there's no, and then after that, I would suggest that we do the voting in a similar method. Although, if you wanted to apply points, you could have a stagger point, so you could choose 1, 2 or 3 people and have more points for first place. So that's that would be MASB's
Yeah.
part that they do say is, they say choose 2 candidates, 2 points for first, 1 point for second,
Mhm.
and then you total that. So that's 2 parts to it. First, let's deal with I think we're okay with 5-minute statement.
Sure.
Yeah.
Then as far as questions, what do people want to do for questions?
And I think, I think our questions that we asked them to answer were very good and thorough, and I was able to get a lot of information from their answers, so I can't envision 6 questions per candidate. I think unless there's something very specific that somebody just needs clarification on.
Or you can make it that each board member has 1 question total for any of the candidates. Like, again, this is what we can decide.
It's not a time for us to elocute on our own values and what, you know.
It's
we
like,
wanna see in
I
this
just
way.
need to know about this,
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
is the point, I would think, for questions, but if you want to, you can just leave it that total board members can have 1 question across all total.
I
So
think
you
that's
choose.
too few.
That's- again, I'm
like
trying
the
to-
1 per.
Well, I said I
Yeah.
feel like some people maybe no questions as well, so like, that's what I'm trying to find out where the happy medium is.
If I saw something in their paperwork that triggers a question, I'll ask it. If not, I wouldn't have any either. It'll just vary on the candidate.
I agree. I agree.
So
I
I'm
think-
fine with that too, because I feel like.
If you have a question as a board member, to be able to ask the candidate, I think that's fair.
So up to 1 question, we try and use our discretion to, like, it's
Yeah.
not meant to be anything, but I really need to know this.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, you might have, more than 1 question, I'm okay with that too.
I am, but at some point you're gonna have a limit.
Can we
so
limit the time of questions though?
Why we kind
So,
of
like-
have by the response as well, you mean?
Yeah, like, so if we said we're gonna do personal statements at 5 minutes, maybe limit questions to 8 or 10 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I would limit, I think it should be fairly quick on each one, but I'm okay
Like
to
maybe
put a limit.
1 minute for a response.
Yeah,
That's,
That's where I
Okay.
would put a limit
yeah,
to.
1
It's
minute per response.
1 minute for response.
And we can't take more than,
Yeah.
we can cut each other off if we're pontificating, going on too
Yeah.
long.
So we should, as board, we should try, it should be clarifying questions only. They should be quick and concise, and then a 1 minute response.
Okay.
Okay.
I will be your designated timekeeper to adjust.
And
all
I'd
these
like to
different-
just see if we can post them online too, the resumes and
Yep.
their answers to their questions, I think that'd be great,
We
to
can do
try
that.
to get some community feedback or,
Is it okay if we confirm with them
Yeah.
at that point, the
Yeah.
4 candidates?
yeah, for sure.
That they're okay to proceed, and if so, we'll post their things with redacted personal information?
Yeah.
Yeah.
As far as address, phone number,
Right.
email.
As long as they know that it is foilable anyway.
Yep.
Kids' names, maybe even kids' schools, I don't know,
Can you get that up within 48 hours?
that'd be great.
There's not too much, I mean, we all read them, there's not too much in there, but there is some.
I only remember one applicant who named their children.
Yeah, we would do that, we would like that, because of a records element for us with that, for both, we would redact the kids' names.
Okay,
And address it like, yeah, like he.
okay.
Alright, so then on that, so if we're agreeing again on the process, we don't need a formal motion, I don't think on this. However, we do, or maybe we should just at least state that afterwards, but we do on the voting side. Can we get that down? I mean, do we want to do top three, 3, 2, 1 point, 3 for first, 2 for second, 1 for third? Do you want to do 2? Any preference?
Who's on first?
What's that?
So we have-
Who sings the Star Spangled Banner?
So with 4 candidates.
So we have 5 interviews, you get to vote. I'm just throwing something out there to start, that you vote for your top 3 candidates in order. Number 1, we get 3 points. Number 2, we get 2 points. Number 3, we get 1 point. So you're staggering your vote. You don't have to vote for 3. If you want.
Okay.
Can
Yep.
you vote for the same candidate?
No. I like to get this out now. This is a good process. So
number 1 is your top vote, number 2.
yeah.
I
Okay.
support that, Scott.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then that way it's very clear, and then we'll tally, we'll do a double check as well,
Yep.
like we did before.
And do a similar, just anonymous, I think is
Yeah.
a good
And again,
way
they
to
are
do
foilable,
that.
but I
And
don't,
then we vote if
But
we have a
yes.
tie, or something like that.
Yeah.
Well,
tie, yeah, it would be harder when you have 3 to get a tie, but statistically it would be possible, especially so,
but even if you had a tie, you may wanna debate,
well, if you have a tie, then you can vote between the 2.
sure, but if you don't have a tie even, because you're narrowing from 4 to 2, you may wanna sit and go,
Yeah.
and then, okay, let's do another vote of our only
That's what,
1 point
Mhm.
to get to a final candidate. It depends on your spread, where you guys feel comfortable.
We're going 4 to 2?
Well, that's the thing, 4 to 1, he just said,
I just
so
said
that was
if
my,
the question was if there was a tie,
Yeah, then it's a runoff.
then it's a runoff between the 2 candidates,
Okay.
basically.
We're going 4 to 1. If it's a tie, it's a runoff.
That's the easiest way to do it. I don't think we need to prove, I get what was it what's the voting method? Like it's what they use for like the Olympics, where they eliminate one, they revote
Right.
every time.
Right.
Okay, so is there any other questions on rules or procedure? Anything you can think of?
I think we're good, we've, what our board packet says right now is maintains true. You get 5 minute, opening statement, and then the board will control questions.
Yep.
We'll post online the information that's been requested if the 4 people still wanna move forward, and I think we're good.
Okay.
One last request would just be for the others that were not moving forward, will you?
Yeah, I think we'll send a
Write
personal, like
them,
a
okay.
thank you, like, yeah,
Okay.
cause I don't think there was any bad candidates.
No, I don't either, and in 2 years, there's gonna be, I would just encourage them to stay tuned and, we've really had some fantastic candidates apply and it kind of fills me up just knowing that there's so many great people that care about TCAPS, so, it's really pleasantly surprised, so, yeah.
Yep.
And then do we have an installment thought, would they be coming to the next meeting?
They'll be invited to join us at the table immediately,
Okay.
but sworn in later.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
on the 10th,
You
yeah.
can't vote until they're sworn in, so.
Yep.
Yeah. We talked about that quite a bit at executive.
Which,
Yeah.
it's like, at first, cause I think we didn't wanna, it's like kind of nice that they can be part of it, but at the same time, you don't want the pressure of like
Right.
literally just dropped in, that you don't have any background or context or committee meetings that you may not have seen, so,
Yep.
we may have, I thought we would scare some more people off with our committee meetings, this month, but clearly not, so.
The time commitment question.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's it, so, if there's, I think we're set. Any other questions on the process? Now is the time, cause again, I do want it a little bit more hammered out before.
I just want to thank all the candidates for applying again. And since the vast majority have elementary school students, you have many years ahead of you to be involved. We encourage you to do so. Please consider volunteering in your schools. There's always a sex education advisory committee that has vacancies every year, and campaigning's not that bad. Feel free to reach out if you ever want any advice on that front.
Yeah, don't ask me. If there's no other comments, again, thank you everyone for
Scott,
applying.
We do have
Do
a
have a
second public
public
comment.
I was gonna say, moving on to
okay.
public
Yep.
comment,
Okay.
okay, well, that answers that question too.
Sorry.
So the board has set aside this time for public comment. Individuals addressing the board should have one opportunity, so if you've already spoken, you cannot speak again, and we've limited to 3 minutes. Individuals should not make personal attacks unrelated to actions affecting the school system, and we strongly encourage common courtesy and constructive feedback. Detailed rules and procedures, including a complaint process, are outlined in board policy 2504. Tammy?
I do. Scott Richards.
Scott Richards, Green Lake Township. I shut the door earlier because I couldn't hear you guys. Some of you guys are soft spoken, so I couldn't, that's why I shut the door.
We have to have it open
have to
per,
have it
on state rules, Open Meetings Act. Just so you know.
Oh, we can't hear you.
I understand. We'll look at it.
That's why I did it. Okay, I'm a veteran. I spent 6 years in the military. And I fought for people to have the First Amendment right. So I think all the school board people should have had a chance to speak in front of the public. Because that's how I feel. You can speak whatever you want, even though I don't like the speech, but I have to listen to it. So that's what the First Amendment's all about. I think the school board people that applied should have respect to talk in front of the public. I also think the public should be able to see their application. So the public has a choice in it. And there was nothing about transparency here. You know, I mean, you guys picked 4 people and 8 people wanted to be on the board. Being on the board is a great responsibility. If these people want to put their time in to give an application, I think the public should be able to see it. And I think they should have the chance to speak in front of the public and in front of you. And as far as your kids, my kids are grown. My kids are out of school. Okay, but the problem is, the younger kids are gonna be influencing my kids. So that's why I think it's a great responsibility, and I think everybody should have a chance to speak. Thank you.
Alright, no other public comment? Alright, then hearing no other public comment, just again, thank you for all the candidates, amazing pool. We will go through and redact any personal information that'll be posted with permission we'll add it to the packet, whichever way works for you guys. With that, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I move to adjourn the meeting.
Interrupt
Alright, there
it.
you go.
Sorry.
All those in favor say
I gotta
aye.
go to another meeting.
All those opposed say nay. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Take it personally.